Okay, so we are starting the book Onward, and it is by Suzanne Francis. So this is a Disney movie, and you can watch it on Disney Plus if you would like, if you have it. So I'm going to start with the first chapter. Long, long ago, before smartphones, televisions, and even electricity, the world was very different. Sprites and unicorns soared across the sky as centaurs, satyrs, cyclops, elves, and merfolk frolicked below. The world was full of wonder. It was adventurous, exciting, and best of all, there was magic. During those wondrous days, wizards would cast spells, shouting incantations like Boom Bastia and Flame Infernar and Voltar Thundersair. Magic burst from their staffs with dazzling beams of light. Those who mastered magic tackled unfathomable challenges. Skilled wizards could make objects float, create fire, or even assist a warrior on a quest by defeating terrible beasts such as hydras and dragons. Wizards didn't hesitate to help those in need, and everyone enjoyed what magic could do. But it wasn't easy. Becoming a wizard required patience, practice, and persistence. And only those with the gift of magic could perform the spells. So with new technology, the world found simpler ways to get by. Instead of taking years to perform the light spell, even the lowliest elf could just flick a switch to turn on an electric light bulb. Or they could turn on a gas stove rather than conjure fire with magic. Eventually, the students of wizardry tossed away their staffs, ready for the life of ease that technology made possible. Soon, everyone embraced toasters, gas fireplaces, buses, cars, and became accustomed to all the conveniences of modern life. Sprites traveled for work by airplane instead of using their wings to fly. Centaurs drove instead of galloping across the land. Bored teens played video games, I know some of you do, or gazed at their smartphones instead of setting off on adventurous quest. Thus, over time, magic faded away. Chapter 1. The sun rose over the city of New Mushroom Town as residents began their morning routines. Garbage trucks picked up trash along the suburban streets. Scavenging, unicorns scattered as the trucks rolled past. Ian Lightfoot, a shy, awkward elf, was inside his cozy mushroom home getting ready for school. His eyes landed on the calendar on his desk, and he focused on the date. It was circled, and on it he'd written 16th birthday. He took a deep breath and headed downstairs with his head held high, ready to take on the day and hopeful that age 16 would mark the beginning of a bright new chapter in his life. Loud, pulsing music blared from the living room. Ian's mother, Laurel, was dressed in workout gear and exercising in front of the television. She followed along as a Cyclops barked out commands. "We're gonna get Warrior Z90 fit. Let me hear you say, 'I'm a mighty warrior.'" "Morning, Mom," Ian called over the music. He repeated himself, but his mom still didn't hear him. The family's small pet dragon, Blazy, blasted into the room. Ian screamed as she tackled him to the ground and licked his face all over. Finally noticing Ian trapped beneath the wiry dragon, Laurel grabbed a spray bottle and squirted the energetic pet with water. "Blazy, down! Bad dragon, back to your lair," she scolded. Blazy blew a small puff of fire at her before trotting off. When Ian got back on his feet, Laurel attacked him with kisses. "Happy birthday, Mr. Adult Man," she squealed. No, Mom," Ian said, laughing as he squirmed. Gross." "Hey, buddy, don't wipe off my kisses." She stepped back and gazed at him. "What?" he asked. "You're wearing your dad's sweatshirt." "Oh, finally fits." "Oh, my little chubby cheeks is all grown up," Laurel cooed, moving toward him again. Okay, Mom, I gotta eat something before school," Ian said, heading toward the kitchen. Laurel followed behind. "Oh, we don't have much food. I still have to go to the grocery store." Ian reached toward a covered platter inside the fridge. "Hands off, mister. Those are for your party tonight." Ian grabbed the milk from the fridge and closed the door. "It's not a party, Mom. It's just us." He pulled the last box of cereal out of the cabinet and emptied what little was left into a bowl. Well, you could invite those kids from your science class. You said they seemed pretty rockin'. She opened a container of protein powder. I'm pretty sure I didn't say it like that, Ian replied. And besides, I don't even know them. Well, your birthday is the day to try new things. Be the new you. Laurel poured the powder into a blender, added water, secured the top, and hit the power button. It roared to life with a deafening whirr. She screamed over the noise. Speaking of trying new things, did you sign up for driving practice? No, shouted Ian as Laurel turned off the blender. No, he repeated, quietly this time. Laurel poured her protein shake into a glass. I know you're a little scared to drive, sweetie pie, but Ian let out a nervous giggle. I'm not scared, Mom. He gestured to a board game called Quest of Yore, set up on the kitchen table. Small pewter figurines, dice, and cards had been carefully placed along the board. I'm going to move Barley's game. Okay, but you know how he gets when someone touches that board. As Ian approached the kitchen table, he tripped on a plastic weapon on the floor and nearly dropped his cereal. He caught himself, put the bowl down, and reached for one of the figurines. Well, he's got to learn to clean up his toys. Ian screamed as a thick arm suddenly wrapped around his neck and a booming voice yelled, "Halt!" Chapter 2. Ian was pulled into the hulking chest of his older brother, Barley. Doth my brother dare disrupt an active campaign? Said Barley. He wrestled Ian away from the game, knocking the bowl of cereal to the floor. Oh, come on, groaned Ian. You know, Ian, in the days of old, a boy of 16 would have his strength tested in the swamps of despair, said Barley, his arm still wrapped tightly around Ian. I'm not testing anything. Just let me go, Ian said, struggling. Let him go, said Laurel. Barley smiled and released him. Okay, but I know you're stronger than that. There's a mighty warrior inside you. You just gotta let him out. Right, Mom? Barley turned into Laurel and pounced, instantly putting her in the same chokehold. She laughed as she fought back, then recoiled. Barley, you stink. When was the last time you showered? They playfully wrestled as Blazy ran back into the room and roared and leapt around them excitedly. In the midst of the chaos, Ian cleaned up his scattered cereal. If you tried a little harder, you could actually probably wiggle out of this, said Barley. Laurel smirked and flipped Barley onto his back, knocking the air right out of him. See, said Barley, Mom knows how to let her inner warrior out. Still on his back, Barley reached up for a high five. Thanks. Now take out the trash, said Laurel, helping him up. Barley grabbed the bag of garbage and carried it through the back door. As soon as he stepped outside, he heard the distinct sounds of a police radio. Officer Bronco, he groaned. A mustached senator, which is half horse, half man, cop wearing mirrored aviator sunglasses stepped from the shadows. Barley, 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 said Officer Colt Bronco, shaking his head. Every time the city tries to tear down an old piece of rubble, I gotta drag my rear end out here to deal with you. I don't know what you're talking about, said Barley. Oh, really, said Colt. He took out his phone and played a video. The footage showed Barley clinging to an ancient fountain. I won't let you tear down this fountain, he exclaimed. A crowd of construction workers and cops yelled at him as he continued to shout. Ancient warriors on grand quest drank from its flowing waters. Colt turned off his phone and looked at Barley with his eyebrows raised. Laurel, who had been standing in the doorway long enough to see the video, sighed. Barley. They are destroying the town's past, he exclaimed. And last night, someone destroyed their bulldozer, said Colt. Barley shrugged. Laurel turned to Colt with another sigh. Well, come on in. Rest your haunches for a minute. Thanks. Thank you, hun, said Colt. He entered the house and gave Laurel a kiss. Barley and Ian winced at the sight. Their mom having a boyfriend was gross. Colt approached Ian and grinned. Hey there, birthday boy. So you working hard or hardly working? He punched Ian on the shoulder a little too hard and let out a horsey laugh. I'm just making toast, said Ian as he opened a jar of jam. Laurel narrowed her eyes at her older son. I'm serious, Barley. You need to start thinking less about the past and more about your future. Colt turned and accidentally knocked the toast out of Ian's hand with his tail. It fell to the floor, jam side down. Before Ian could react, Blazy whipped by and snatched it up. Ian sighed and started making himself another piece of toast. She's right, said Colt. You can't spend all day playing on your board game. He plopped his lower horse half into a chair at the kitchen table with a grunt. The pewter figurines on the board rattled and fell over. Barley gasped. Quest of Yore isn't just a board game. It's a historically based role-playing scenario, he said, quickly setting the pieces back in place. Did you know in the old days, centaurs could run 70 miles an hour? I own a vehicle. I don't need to run, said Colt, unimpressed. Barley turned to his brother. Well, Ian, you could definitely learn a lot from Quest of Yore. You want to play? I don't, answered Ian. You could be a crafty rogue or, ooh, I know, you could be a wizard. Barley pushed a pewter wizard into Ian's shoulder and said in a mysterious, deep voice, I shall cast a spell on thee. Hey, careful of Dad's sweatshirt, said Ian, eyeing the wizard on his shoulder. I don't even remember Dad wearing that sweatshirt, said Barley. Well, you do only have like 2 memories of him. No, I've got 3. I remembered his beard was scratchy, he had a goofy laugh, and I used to play drums on his feet, Ian said along with him. They had talked about it 1,000 times. I used to go, said Barley, and hummed, shave and a haircut. When he got to the last 2 beats, he stopped humming and blew 2 raspberries. Then he accidentally knocked Ian's toast off the counter. Ian lunged for it, but it fell on the floor. As Barley picked up the bread, his spiked wrist cuff bracelet caught on the seam of Ian's sweatshirt and snagged it. Ian gasped. Barley looked down at the snag. It's okay. You just gotta pull it. He yanked his arm to break off the thread, and it unraveled even more, causing the seam to open. Barley! Shouted Laurel, hurrying over to cut the thread. Ian stared at his brother, holding in his frustration. He took a deep breath. You know what? I'm just going to get some food on the way to school. I'll sew that later tonight, said Laurel. Barley jumped to his feet, slapped on a helmet, and picked up a sword. Wait! By the laws of Yore, I must dub thee a man today. Kneel before me. Oh, that's okay. I gotta get going, said Ian, eager to get out of the house as far from Barley as possible. All right. Well, I'll pick you up later, and we'll perform the ceremony at school. No. Don't do that. Okay, bye, said Ian, quickly backing out the door. Ready for a fresh start to his day, Ian headed to his favorite fast food restaurant. As he sat down to order, an elf named Gaxton approached. Hey, go Griffins, said Gaxton. What? Said Ian. Gaxton pointed to the logo on Ian's sweatshirt. You know, you go to Willowdale College? He handed his son a receipt and sent him to the counter to wait for the food. Oh no, this was my dad's. He pointed to where Lightfoot was embroidered on it. Lightfoot? Wilden Lightfoot? Yeah, said Ian, excited to meet someone who had known his father. It was just the thing he needed to turn his morning around. You're kidding. I went to college with him, said Gaxton, beaming. His face faded. Yeah, boy, was I so sorry to hear that he passed away. Ian nodded and thanked him. You know, your dad was a great guy, Gaxton continued, so confident. When he came into a room, people noticed. He laughed as he recalled, the man wore the ugliest purple socks every single day. Ian laughed too. What? Why? That's exactly what we asked, but he was just bold. I always wish I had a little bit of that in me. Yeah, wow, I've never heard any of this about him before. Do you remember? Just then, Gaxton's son interrupted, calling to his dad from the counter and holding up a bag of food. Gaxton apologized as he gestured toward his son. Gotta get this guy off to school. He held out his hand. Hey man, it was nice meeting you. Yeah, you too, said Ian. Gaxton took off and Ian waited for a moment, lost in thought. Every single thing he knew about his father was what other people had told him. Discovering something new about his dad's past made his mind race. A plan began to form in Ian's mind. He knew what he had to do to kickstart his new year. After picking up his breakfast, he hurried off to school with a spring in his step.